It is day two of the former president's second impeachment trial. It's soon going to start on Capitol Hill. There, the House managers will officially present their opening arguments. They're expected to pick up right where they left off yesterday, highlighting what they say is a pattern of behavior and rhetoric that they say the former president incited an insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. Democrats began, of course, by showing what we were just talking about, extremely jarring video from the deadly assault. Watch. Even former President Trump's lawyers admitted the video evidence was powerful. They actually, at one point, pointed to the House managers and said, "You did a good job." And they are now facing major criticism over their own performance yesterday, with some Republicans calling it a rocky start. That's putting it politely. In response, 6 Republicans joined every single Democrat in voting to proceed with the trial yesterday. However, 17 are needed to convict former President Trump. Nancy Cordes is following the latest on the Hill.
This building was attacked just over a month ago, but today the House impeachment managers are going to argue that the president's role actually goes back much farther than that, to all of the times over the past few months that he claimed that this election was stolen or rigged or fraudulent. They are going to argue that it wasn't simply an errant comment here or there, but a concerted campaign of lies that inflamed his supporters and led to an insurrection that left half a dozen people dead.
Presidents can't inflame insurrection in their final weeks and then walk away like nothing happened.
The House managers previewed their argument yesterday.
We are going to the Capitol, where our problems are. It's that direction.
Using a powerful video that walked senators through the assault on their own chamber.
Get down!
We fight. We fight like hell.
Along with Mr. Trump's actions before and after.
We love you. You're very special.
He celebrated their cause. He validated their attack. He told them, remember this day forever.
Mr. Trump's defense got off on the wrong foot.
We changed what we were going to do on account that we thought that the House manager's presentation was well done.
Lawyer Bruce Castor, who specializes in medical malpractice and personal injury cases, kept diverging from the issue at hand.
Nebraska, you're going to hear, is quite a judicial thinking place. We still know what records are, right? On the thing you put the needle down on and you play it.
Senators called it rambling, a rocky start, even inappropriate. And those were just the Republicans.
President Trump's team were disorganized. They did everything they could but to talk about the question at hand.
Still, just one of them, Louisiana's Bill Cassidy, changed his position, joining 5 other Republicans who voted with Democrats to let the trial go forward.
The House managers made a compelling, cogent case, and the president's team did not.
Leading the House managers' case is Maryland's Jamie Raskin, who described that day in personal terms, the risk to his daughter and son-in-law who were with him at the Capitol.
She said, "Dad, I don't want to come back to the Capitol." Of all the terrible, brutal things I saw and I heard on that day, and since then, that one hit me the hardest.
The House impeachment managers will have their first of 2 8-hour days today to lay out their case, and then the defense team gets the same amount of time to make theirs, followed by questioning from the senators themselves, who remember this attack all too well, Vlad and Anne Marie, because they were among the targets.
Nancy, thank you so much. Okay, so for more on this, let us bring in CBS 10 political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns. Caitlin is joining us now from Capitol Hill. Caitlin, you know, Vlad and I have been sort of talking above each other, going back and forth. We were texting back and forth yesterday. It was just quite a display and quite a contrast looking at the impeachment manager's argument versus the attorneys, operating on behalf of the former president. What exactly can we expect today as opening arguments get underway?
Good morning. Well, I think the Trump team will be pleased that we won't be hearing from his side of the equation today, because today is focused on the House Democrats, the impeachment managers. They are going to be presenting their theory of the case, and they have 16 hours spread over 2 days, 8 hours each day. We'll see if they use all of that time, because we know they want to make a clear and succinct case to the public and to the senators in the chamber. And what they will do is not only reference a lot of what we saw yesterday in that 13-minute long video that was very compelling, and at the time, senators were watching that in the chamber, reliving the events and possibly seeing it in a new light. But they will also be drawing on new evidence or new video that they say that people may not have seen before. Remember, a few days ago, Jamie Raskin, the lead impeachment manager, talked not only about the deaths, but about the injuries sustained by Capitol Police. We also know that they want to treat this case like a criminal prosecution. And so that's kind of a preview of what we can expect from the Democratic side today.
So, Caitlin, we saw only 6 Republicans join their Democratic colleagues in voting to proceed with the trial. One of those was Senator Bill Cassidy. He actually switched his vote to move forward after initially ruling that the process was unconstitutional. Let me just play what he had to say about what he witnessed.
I said I'd be an impartial juror. Anyone listening to those arguments, the House managers were focused, they were organized, they relied upon both precedent, the Constitution, and legal scholars. They made a compelling argument. President Trump's team were disorganized. They did everything they could but to talk about the question at hand. And when they talked about it, they kind of glided over it, almost as if they were embarrassed of their arguments.
So here's what's interesting to me, Caitlin. Senator Cassidy's vote is significant because I know it's just day one, but day one generally sets the tone in any trial in this country or any country. Day one is where you set the tone, where you show your cards on the table before things get very, very tricky. And if you were able to dislodge one senator, I know that people are saying, yeah, but all the other Republicans still voted that it was unconstitutional. But who knows how it's going to play out over the next couple of days. And, that I think is what is kind of remarkable. Even though, for example, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell voted that it was unconstitutional, the reporting from you and others is that he's not really decided what he's going to do when it comes to conviction.
Right. I think yesterday with Cassidy's vote shows the potential for persuasion, and that is the goal for the House managers over the next couple of days, to not only a message to the American people, but to try to make their case to the senators sitting in that chamber. So those comments from Cassidy were striking, and it's also notable that he wasn't the only Republican critical of the president's defense team. We heard from Susan Collins, who, of course, also voted the way Cassidy did. But people like Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz and some others were also very critical of the president's defense team, arguing that they didn't really get to the point of the argument. Now, it is significant that all but 6 Republicans voted to say that this is an unconstitutional trial. So that raises the question of whether you can vote to convict a former president if you believe that it's not constitutional in the first place. But I do want to address something about Mitch McConnell, because as we know, he voted that yesterday that this wasn't a constitutional trial. But it's really significant to note that he and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy have argued that the president bears responsibility. Remember, on the Senate floor, McConnell said that Trump provoked the riots. McCarthy said that Trump bears responsibility for what happened. And this is a key part of the president's defense, that he's protected by free speech and that the events were not directly incited by then President Trump. And so you kind of see this contrast with what we've seen on Republicans' messaging here, saying that Trump bears some responsibility, and the president's defense. And that's what the House impeachment managers want to get at today. They want to show that this wasn't just about that speech on January 6th that led to the riots. It was in the aggregate, that in the weeks leading up to the election, the president was sowing falsehoods, was encouraging his supporters to challenge the election results before the election even happened. So I think it's an interesting contrast. Even if Republicans do, vote not to convict, that messaging is apparent.
The thing is that we have seen sort of time and time again Republicans willing to float some criticism towards the president, but then when push comes to shove, when voting happens, they vote with him. And there were many Republicans who thought that the former president's attorneys did a terrible job. Vlad used one quote, a rocky start, and then you kind of, reinforce the fact, Vlad, that was amongst the nicest things said about their performance, that it was a rocky start, particularly Bruce Castor. Others were much more critical. And we are also getting reports that the former president was less than pleased too. Do we know how he has been reacting to his team's performance?
That's right. Our Major Garrett and Arden Farhi reported that Trump was not pleased watching yesterday. And remember, this is someone who watches television often. Of course, we saw that while he was president, very much focused on the TV presentation. And we saw that in the last impeachment trial. He's always wanted his defenders to be out there projecting strength and to be these kind of attack dogs. And from the opening statements that we saw from Castor, that was the opposite of that. And the Republicans' criticisms of that reflect that. So they will have a couple of days before they present their theory of the case, and what they are trying to argue is that the president did not incite the riots, that he's protected by free speech, and of course, as we saw yesterday, they think this whole entire process is unconstitutional. And there have been talking points circulated among Republican lawmakers here and among RNC members, and they are trying to project this as how the former president projected really every kind of investigation into him during his term, which is that it's a hoax, it's a sham, and so that's kind of the messaging, and we'll see if that's baked in. Another point I wanted to make, just to kind of give you the context of what it's like up here, it's just a reminder of how the impact of what we saw a month ago is still having here on the Capitol. The Capitol grounds are surrounded by fences and barbed wire. That's a very visual reminder that this is a place where that was breached at the most concerning levels. And so you see National Guard still all around every corner of this campus. I was just getting coffee earlier this morning, and there are armed National Guardsmen walking around in the halls. And so it's just another way to kind of remind people about how the effects of that day in January are still lingering even more than a month later.
All right, Caitlin, as always, we thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.